Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I have decided to go live on my Periscope as well as my public page. This teaching was just supposed to be in our private mentorship group, mentoring and training with Dr.Faith, but I decided to open it up just because I haven't had time to really go live on any of the other platforms because I've been so busy. So instead of just doing this training in the private mentoring group on Facebook, I'm gonna open it up to everybody so that we can chat concerning prophetic traits, what it means to kind of have a personality that may allude to a prophetic gift. We're going to do a lot of demystifying because I think that there's a lot of kind of just myths about what prophetic people should look like and what prophetic people, how they should act and so on and so forth. So I wanted to talk about this in our School of the Prophets, which is coming up in August. We have a whole 2-hour session on the profile and the pitfalls of prophetic people. Today, I'll probably touch on a couple of those, and then we'll go from there. So, like I mentioned, every week, probably twice a week, I go live in our private mentoring group. That's why I haven't had time to go live on the public pages, Periscope and Facebook. But I wanted to invite you guys into this. We are nearing the closing of registration for our fivefold school, which starts August 10th, our School of the Prophets and our Spiritual Development School. So I wanted to kind of share with you guys some of the topics that are going on. We have a lot of exciting things going on too. But I know when I come on a live, I want the person to get straight to the content. So I'm going to do that. And then I will talk about all the amazing things that we have going on at the school and in the program. All right. So I don't even know where to start. I just feel like there is so much out there. A lot of it not even necessarily true in terms of profiles of prophetic people. The one that keeps coming out, right, is that prophetic people are what we call eccentric, right? So that means they're like just kind of weird. They're kind of different. And we're actually in the private mentoring group during the study on the book of my book called Marked. And so in it, I go through some of those things. And when you're prophetic, when you're creative, usually there's similar traits to people that are marked. Not all marked people are necessarily going to be creatives or they're going to be strongly prophetic because they can be apostolic, they can be, designers, they could just be someone who's been designed to change the world. But you will find similar things. But one of the big things that I hear concerning prophetic people is that they are, they're just weird, that they are, loners and that they are blunt, right? So the weird piece, I don't think it's true. I think that what happens is prophetic people go through stages and they go through phases where they have to really deal with what people think about them and really fight that whole feeling of wanting to be approved by men and wanting to be validated by men. The Lord literally has to kill that in you so that you can be submitted to his voice, so that nothing else matters except what he is saying. And so when you go through those seasons, what the enemy really tries to do is convince you that you're by yourself, that nobody else gets it, that you're the only one thinking the way that you're thinking, you're the only one who's been through what you've been through, but it's just not the truth. And so what I find is that when people are prophetic, they tend to isolate themselves, which makes them weird. Right? Which, maybe they've gone through heartache, maybe they've had a tough life, or they've had weird experiences in the spirit realm, and they feel like they're just already weird. They feel like the odd man out. And instead of kind of processing that and trying to figure out where it's coming from, they just isolate themselves. Then they'll be like, people don't like me, people don't get me. But that's not true. You've got to do the work to deal with your interpersonal issues. And not all prophetic people deal with this. It's usually the ones who have not had the proper training and have not been in the right environments that they feel weird or they feel isolated. Because I have plenty of prophetic friends that are mature. They're my friends. We have friends. We grow up and pretty normal. But I think it's when you haven't had the right upbringing. And then the other thing that I think causes that is when people are so enamored by your gift, or you're enamored by your gift. And we're in a season where everything is like this big deal. If you are a discerner, if you're, you can dream, it's like like this special thing. And so when you put yourself kind of in that category, then automatically you're going to think people are not going to get you. People are not going to understand you. Part of my assignment is to give languaging to people about who they are and their assignment. And one of the biggest things that prophetic people can do is be friends with people that are not prophetic. Be friends with people that are stable. Be friends with people that are not even enamored about the gifts and seeing and sensing and all of that. Just be around normal people. That will help level you out. That will help balance you out. But I think it's a cycle where you feel like people feel like you're weird, and then you act weird, and then you isolate yourself, and then it just goes, it becomes this vicious cycle. So the myth is that prophetic people have to be eccentric. I think part of it is that most prophetic people are also creatives. You have prophetic people that are right-brained and left-brained, meaning that are extremely logical and extremely creative. But the majority of prophetic people are more right-brained, which is more of the creative brain. And so you will see that's where like the bright colors come from, constantly changing your hair, dressing in unique ways, because the creative realm is part of the prophetic realm. Creativity comes from the place of being able to hear, sense, and see. And obviously you're going to be hearing, sensing, and seeing either from the Lord or from the enemy. And so when people are creatives, they hear. When they see, when they take pictures, they're seeing an image and they're capturing it. If they paint, they have to see it first. So it's all part of the same realm. And so you will have prophetics who tend to be creative, and that shows forth in how they dress or in how they act. And once again, not all prophetics are creatives, but a lot of them are. And part of the other thing with the creative realm is that is the realm of a lot of people that are strong in the right brain creative realm also go into things like counseling. They go into things like theater. They go into things where they connect emotions with people. And so you'll find that a lot of prophetic gifts also go into that. But it is your job not necessarily to be normal, but to be the truest you. And so part of the journey of every prophetic person is getting to the core of who they really are, not what they think they should be. And this will show, like in how you prophesy. I can tell, if people are mimicking a style when they prophesy. And you know what happens is when you're in part of a church or part of a stream, we all tend to pray the same, or we may all tend to prophesy in a similar way. And that's fine. Like your delivery. But there are certain people who you can tell like they're trying to mimic this person, and that comes out of not having clarity concerning who you are. The thing that's really important about being a prophetic person when it comes to your delivery, the anointing relies on your authenticity. And so when you're clearly you, so one of for example, like if I go to a place where everybody's like, whoa, and they're rolling on the ground, and that's just not my temperament, and I try to minister and I prophesy out of that, is not necessarily gonna be authentic, and it may not bear the fruit that it's supposed to be. Or if I go to a place where everyone's like, thus saith the Lord, and then I'm trying to mimic that because that's what I've learned, it's not going to be authentic and not hit the spot. So the biggest fight that you're going to have is to be clear about who you are and be confident in who you are, so that when you deliver your messages that the Lord is giving you, they are clearly from you. And like I said, when you have spiritual parents or you're part of a spiritual family, we have similar DNA. So there are going to be certain things that we do and mannerisms, but in a healthy church, the focus should be for you to be the truest you and not to be like the leading prophet or the other whatever. But the job of the prophetics in that church should be try to give you your voice and teach you how to do that. Delivery is really important, how you deliver a message, but I'm not going to go into that today. So we have eccentric, we have just kind of weird, that prophetic people tend to be weird or tend to be isolated. I think that's the biggest lie. You can be prophetic and have healthy relationships. You can be prophetic and have friendships. I think the enemy, once again, and even society has kind of created these lies. And one of the books that we use in the school in August is called Oh, Jesus. I was just looking at it. It's by Bill Hammond, but it's Prophetic People and Prophetic Problems or something like that. And in it, he kind of he debunks some of these theories that people have concerning prophetic people. All right, let's see. What are some other traits of prophetic people? You'll find another one. People will say, well, I'm just very direct. I'm just very blunt. I'm just very bold because I'm prophetic. That's another area where you have, scripture says to season our words with grace, right? My website is askdrfaith.com. Someone is asking what my website is. You have to learn how to season your words with grace. And so even as a prophetic person, I tend to have a no-nonsense, very direct type of temperament, but I have to learn and understand the people that I'm talking to. And this has nothing to do with watering down the word of God, because honestly, the goal of the prophetic is to reconcile people back to God. And if my delivery is so harsh and so hard that people leave my presence crushed, then I haven't reconciled them back to God. And so one of the things that we have to kind of debunk is that prophetic people are always blunt and they're always straight to the point and they always have to say what they are feeling. No, that means you lack self-control. Self-control is one of the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit are gifts that you cultivate on your own. And so if you know that you tend to say everything that comes to your mind, and this happens a lot when people are young in the prophetic and they haven't been trained, they're sensing and they're seeing and they're hearing and they feel like they need to be telling everybody everything. Oh, I see you sleeping with so-and-so. Oh, I see you've been having a hard time with this. And it usually tends to be the bad things. Like if you're prophetic, you need to be able to see light just as much as you see darkness. If you're prophetic and the majority of what you see are demons and darkness and what is wrong with people, then your prophetic channel, your prophetic well has not been purified. Because the goal of the prophetic is to reconcile people back to God. And in the New Testament model of the prophetic, there is the goal in that model is to teach people how to hear God themselves and to teach people how to connect to God. The Old Testament model of the prophetic, God spoke through prophets and that was it. And so they were the mouthpieces that, brought judgment, that brought correction, that brought order. If you're still prophesying in an Old Testament prophetic model, those usually tend to be the ones that are very harsh, very judgmental. They cannot see the treasure. Scripture says that they are treasures in earthen vessels. In the New Testament, our job is to reconcile people back to God. You will see even in the New Testament, there's not a huge mention of the prophets, right? Because honestly, every believer is supposed to be prophetic. Every believer is supposed to be able to hear the voice of God. Every believer should be able at some point to exhort, edify, and comfort, as someone has shared. And so there is a difference, and that's something that we teach at the school as well. The difference between an old covenant model of prophecy and a new covenant. I don't want to go too much into that, but being blunt and being harsh is not something that every prophet or prophetic person has to be. This is an area of fruit that you have to cultivate self-control. And then there are times, and usually for me, when it warrants being very direct and being very blunt is when I have ministered a particular word to someone over and over and they're not just getting it. Then I have to say, okay, my dear, all right, this is what it is, and straightforward. Or if I'm dealing with someone who is not even the person, but I'm dealing with the spirit that may be operating in animosity against God or, rebellion against God, then I'll be very blunt and very straight to the point. But you cannot say that you are a voice piece or a mouthpiece of God and you're not loving and you're not kind. So that's another trait that is not necessarily a trait from the Lord. On the other end, you have sensitivity, right? People will say, oh, I'm so sensitive because I'm prophetic. Everything hurts your feelings because you're prophetic. You get rejected easily because you're prophetic. That's another trait that's just not simply true. It is your job to develop tough skin. Develop tough skin and then don't develop a tough heart. If you get hurt easily, if everything offends you, then you don't have the emotional capacity for people. And what that means is that when you were growing up, at some point you did not learn emotional regulation. Emotional Emotional regulation is what we're supposed to learn around 6, 7 years old. And if our parents don't teach us that, then we're easily crumbled. My son is extremely sensitive, and we're giving him the tools to be able to manage that. There is nothing wrong with being sensitive, being able to pick up and sense and discern. Usually that's connected to a pastoral heart, a shepherding heart. People that are called to shepherd people and pastor people tend to have a heart that is just very gentle, very kind, and that's good. But if you go into pastoring and you have not developed tough skin, you're going to be beat up left and right? And so prophetic people can be sensitive, because part of our job is to discern what is happening in the spirit realm, is to discern what is happening around people. But one of the biggest pitfalls, now I've been talking about profiles and pitfalls, is that we tend to discern things, right? Oh, I feel this, and then we think it's us, and then we carry that burden for years. Someone says, how do you teach your children that? We have a school happening July 27th and 28th at our church called the Supernatural Kids and Teens Conference. We would invite you to come. You can also register for it online, so if you can't travel to Raleigh, you can watch it. But maybe I'll do another live specifically on Supernatural Kids as we're getting ready for that event, so that we can give you guys some tools and show you what you will learn if you make the decision to come. But you don't have to necessarily be sensitive. You can be sensitive to the Holy Spirit and not be sensitive based on what people say. And I was talking about picking up what's happening in the atmosphere. So some people can sense what's happening emotionally. Some people can sense what's happening in the environment. It is your job to learn how to discern whether what you're feeling is in the environment, is somebody else, or you. You've got to grow up and learn those things. And when I say it's your job, you study books. You come to the schools that we're hosting. You get around prophetic people that can help coach and mentor you. This is not stuff that just happened because of osmosis, right? Someone mentioned the need deliverance. Deliverance is the number one thing that prophetic people need to do before they even begin to prophesy. If you've not gone through inner healing and deliverance, and you are prophesying and laying hands, that is extremely dangerous, because we prophetic people, there's a thin line between being prophetic and being controlling. It is really easy for prophetic people to step into witchcraft. And that's why a lot of prophetic people, prophetic children, the occult is drawn to them and is constantly trying to move them into that realm. And the reason for that is because you can already automatically see, sense, and hear. And when you can see that people respond to your seeing and sensing, and that what you're hearing is correct, it is easy to manipulate people, especially when you have a mega gift, meaning that you're extremely prophetic. When I first started prophesying, it was crazy. Like the stories that I have and what God was doing and how quickly he would confirm it. Even yesterday, we had our friend Jay Thomas over at our church, and I was like, hey, I have a word for you. And I began to pray over him. And I said, you're getting ready to connect with this gospel artist because the Lord is merging these two streams, He's like, the gospel artist just called me yesterday. I'm going to his church next week, and I'm going to be teaching them on how to merge prophetic worship. So it's just crazy how the prophetic can work. But if you haven't really matured in it, you can get so excited and begin to manipulate and begin to control people with your gift. And so it is really important that you learn how to go through that stuff so that you know that this is all about Jesus. It has nothing to do with you. God is the one that's supposed to be glorified in your gift and in your teaching. All right, guys, give me 1 second. I've lost my group, the mentoring and training group that I normally go live in. And that's who I did this live for. I'm just sharing it publicly. Y'all can join the group. Just search mentoring and training with Dr.Faith, and we train in that group. I go live every 3 days or so, and we're also doing the marked book teaching in there. It's also the group that when we launch our school, and I'm going to go back to teaching in a minute, we're launching an online training academy on July 1st. And for every week, you're going to get an hour teaching from me. It's going to be $37 a month. It's not very expensive, but that's only going to be available for the first 3 days of registration. And then it's going to go up to what it's really worth, which is $97 a month, because you guys are going to be getting every week one class. You're going to be getting PDFs with questions and assessments. You're going to be part of a group where I'm going to be doing live Q&A, so I can mentor you and coach you on a weekly basis. We're going to have guest speakers in that university, and it's an ongoing thing. So I normally coach people for $125 an hour, and you're going to be able to get 4 hours of coaching, instruction on inner healing, deliverance, everything for $37 a month. If you register when we open up, which is July 1st, the school doesn't start till July 7th. Open enrollment is going to be from July 1st to July 5th, and then we're going to close it. It's not one of those things that you could join every month. There's going to be 5 days where you could be part of the first class of our online university, and then you can join again next year if you miss it. So you'll be seeing more information about that. Tomorrow, we're also going to send out a free mini course that's going to explain the whole university. So it's a 4-hour course in which I'm teaching our process, what we're going to be doing. So make sure that you subscribe at AskDrFaith.com so that when we send out that information, you get it and you know when we're opening registration and all of that. All right. Let me go back to the content. If one of my admins is on, please share this video into the Facebook group, because I can't get back on my iPad. So you want to deal with the sensitivity. You want to deal with being overwhelmed with your emotions. It is your responsibility to learn how to master that and how to grow in that. Let's see. I'll do 2 more, and then you guys can give me 1 or 2 that people kind of myths, profiles. One, that people feel like prophetic people always have emotional issues, right? They feel like if you're prophetic, then you're gonna, struggle with depression, or you're gonna struggle with anxiety or bipolar. The truth is, there are some prophetic people who do struggle with those things. And the reason is what I just shared. When they discern things that are not their emotions and their thoughts, they think that they're theirs. And so they could be fine in a moment, and then all of a sudden they feel overwhelmed or they feel depressed. But they don't know that what they're picking up and what they're sensing is actually their environment. And so one of the things that you need to be able to do is be able to discern when this emotion is me or this emotion is the people around me. If not, then you're going to be up and down. Your mood is going to be labile, as we call it in psychology, and you're going to be all over the place. So it's really, really important that if you're feeling fine and all of a sudden you feel weird, most likely it's not you. And if it came from nowhere, most likely it's not you. If you haven't felt like that for weeks and all of a sudden for 2 days straight you're feeling some kind of way, that is a clue that you need to pray. When you feel other people's emotions or the environment, you can go into a region and pick up. It is your job to begin to intercede and say, God, I pray for the people in this region or whatever is going on. So we'll teach more of that at the school. Let's see what else. Prophetic people say prophetic people are disorganized, right? Which the majority are, because most prophetic people are not administrative. But there are 12 different types of prophets, and you have what we call administrative prophets, you have governmental prophets, you have apostolic prophets, and those people are super organized. I am one of those. I'm an apostle prophet, but they can build things, they can lead things, they can organize things, no problem. But the majority of prophetic people, because they're also creative, hate. They don't have the brain. They don't have the brain for it. That's why they don't make good pastors, because they will start the meeting late. The meeting is supposed to start at 7. They'll probably start at 7:45. Then they will go into worship and prayer for another 2 hours. And then after that, they will begin to prophesy for another 2 hours. And you get out of their meeting 6-7 years later. So you will find that most prophetic people are not, they're experience oriented and not time oriented. You will find that most apostolic people are administrative people, which is part of the apostolic realm. Apostles, we are very much time conscious and time focused. Whereas even pastors, oh my goodness, they can talk and talk and talk, and they will minister and minister and minister, and they're not very time focused. They're experience focused. They want to make sure that the people get what they need. Teachers are more time focused, right? So they are going to start on time. They're going to have their notes all lined up. They're going to teach what they need to teach, and then they're going to be out of there. Evangelists are just like prophets. That's why people get confused. They call a bunch of people prophets when they're really evangelists. They will show up to the meeting late. I bet Lauren Hill she's a prophetic evangelist, waiting to emerge. I really believe that. They will show up late. They will be scattered all over the place, but when they begin to talk, it comes with power. There's probably some miracles, and then they'll be out of there, right? It's just part of the general temperaments, but there are anomalies. This is like the majority, but then within the majority, there are people that are anomalies. I know this because I've been training prophetic, apostolic teachers and preachers for over 10 years, right? That's why we even decided to launch the Fivefold Training School. That's why we decided to launch our spiritual development schools, because I realized that a lot of people don't get these teachings. They don't have a lot of languaging. Most people that are in ministry, especially in the African American context, even in European context, Caucasian context, the majority of people are licensed or given a certificate or ordained as a minister, right? But what does that mean? You're a minister. We're all ministers. We're all servants of God, right? And so you need within that minister umbrella that you are in, just because you went to seminary doesn't mean you're supposed to be a preacher. Just because you went and did some training, you may be an evangelist. You may be a prophet. And so it's really, really important for people who feel like they're called into the fivefold to have languaging about who they are. You know why? Because when you know your proper function, then people won't fit you in the wrong place. And so a lot of people are not bearing fruit as ministers because they are being, the area that they're being used in is a teacher, but they're really an evangelist. So they're very frustrated, or they're wanting them to do the work of a pastor, but they're really a teacher and they're really frustrated. It is your responsibility to know. And that's why we have the Fivefold School. We want you guys to come and be part of it live. We do deliverance, inner healing, all of that. It is absolutely amazing. All right, I'm going to take some questions. We're going to be closing down the payment plan option and probably even the whole schools, because we take 150 students for both schools. So the first week is for Fivefold. The next week is for any Christian that wants to grow in inner healing and deliverance, in strategic prayer and warfare, in the things of the supernatural. We have a second week for that. And we have people coming for both weeks. They are flying in from all over the world. So we would love to see you there. All right, let's take some questions concerning the prophetic. How do you get into the mentoring and training group? You just search mentoring and training with Dr.Faith, and it's a free group. You can join it. After July 1st, I'll only be in that group about once a week because my focus is going to be on everyone who's part of our online Destiny Training Academy. And so I'll be engaging those people every single day and training and mentoring them. But if you join the mentoring and training group, you will be the first ones to register. We'll open it up to you guys first for the Destiny Training Academy. And once we reach our number, that's it. So the public may not get the option to reach that because that group has 3,000 people. And so we're only taking a certain number of students in the online. So join it. It's free. I can't wait for the university. I'm excited. Yeah, it's going to be really good. Every week you're going to be getting new content. We're going to do inner healing, identity, purpose, marriage, the prophetic. They're going to be bits and pieces. And you could be part of the university all your life because every month there's going to be something new that we're going to be delivering to you. So it's going to be amazing. Do you do marriage retreat and marriage conference? We did about 2 years ago. We haven't done it again. I am running out of bandwidth, meaning that there's so many things that we offer and that we do that I have to pray and use wisdom, like what year should I do what. So we haven't done one recently, but maybe we'll do one, maybe in February. We'll see. All right. Can you do the class online? So it's a school. It's a 5-day school from 9 to 5. You are in front of me plus other teachers that I have invited. You get lunch. We give you lunch and all the course materials and all of that. So we would encourage you to come. Yeah, there'll be an online option. We'll open that after we fill up our class, our face-to-face class. All right. Okay, let's see. Any other questions here? This is so good. That is da-da-da-da. All right. Any questions on the prophetic? When are you shutting down the monthly payment options? 5 days. We're going to open enrollment from July 4th to July 5th. And that's it. So our membership online university it's open for 5 days. And after that, you have to join the next year. You can get on our wait list and we may open it up again, maybe in a couple months, but it is open for 5 days. You're going to be able to get the information if you're subscribed to us or if you're in the mentoring and training group. And I'll share it on our public pages as well once we open it up to them. It will be 5 days. Okay, let's see, do you teach about the office of a prophet and the gifts of the prophet difference? I have taught on this for the last 3 years. You can go to my YouTube, Dr.Faith Wolkoma, and I have lots of teachings on the prophetic, on the gifts, on the differences. You can find those and catch up. All right, let's see. Will you be offering soul healing certification? I'll be offering the inner healing and deliverance certification, which is a 6-week course for people who want to walk people through inner healing. In the online school, we're going to walk you through inner healing modules. But if you want to learn how to help people walk through deliverance and inner healing, then you will be able to register for that certification program. If you've already been certified with us in another, like a life coaching class that we've done, then you'll get a discount for that. And that is going to be in October. Okay, we'll open up registration in August. Do you come out to other people's ministry and do marriage retreats? Oh, yeah. People invite me to their churches to do all kinds of trainings. I do marriage retreats. I do singles. I do leadership. I do church planting. I do prophetic. I train people on the fivefold. I travel. I'm getting ready. Actually, this weekend I'll be in Greenville, North Carolina. The next weekend I'll be in New Jersey. I put up the information on our site, teaching and training. So yes, we do come out to do that. You can email booking, Booking at askdoctor.faith.com. All right. I had a dove drop in front of me at work out of nowhere. Your insight would be appreciated. That's too easy. Go and read about the dove and Jesus, right? What happened when Jesus was baptized? The dove came upon him. That will tell you what the dove is. All right. How to clean your prophetic well. Go through deliverance. Go, sign up somewhere for inner healing. Figure out what your issues are, what your triggers are. Be accountable to people that can tell you, hey, the way that you're acting, the way that you're behaving is not becoming of a woman of God or whatever. And begin to be open. Be open and transparent. Be open to correction. Be teachable. Always know that there's always going to be gunk. We go through deliverance once a year. And that doesn't mean that we intentionally are in sin or we have open doors or anything. When you have when you come to the Lord, everybody needs to go through deliverance. Everybody, because there's gunks and doors that you have opened, your parents have opened that need to be closed. After that, most of the deliverance that needs to happen is maybe if you are walking in offense or something that happened that wounded you and you haven't dealt with, then you got to deal with those things. But I do that on a regular basis, especially because I minister to people. As a left brain person, how do I avoid over analyzing what I see and hear? Great question, because left brain people are usually what we call the melancholy temperament as well. And they have to think through everything. They have a hard time with faith. They have a hard time stepping out into the supernatural, because if they don't have everything kind of planned out or know what's going to happen, they don't stop. So what area that you need to focus on is faith. Lord, help me grow my faith. Let me learn how to trust you beyond what I see and beyond what I know. And it's going to be, you release control. You got to release control. People that are extremely analytic or left brain want to be in control, which is the real big thing. So you got to release control and you got to develop your area in the Lord on how to trust him. All right, is there such a thing called a prophetic evangelist? Yeah, because but what you see is that it's an evangelist who has a strong prophetic gift. And usually what that means is that they get lots of words of knowledge. So what you will see with most evangelists, who sometimes are called prophets, but they're really not, is that they get words of knowledge. Words of knowledge are short facts about a person's present or past. And because they can say, hey, I saw that you were doing this, or God is, showing me this, then people are like, oh, that's a prophet. But really they're an evangelist. And one of the ways they're evangelists, their focus is to win souls. Their focus is to be outside of the church. Their focus is to, go out and bring people into the church. Whereas prophets, the majority of their focus is in the church, how to teach people how to hear God. How a prophet's primary job is to give people identity. If you're a prophet and you don't teach on identity, then you're probably not a prophet, or you're misnamed. Because the job of a prophet is to give people languaging concerning who they are in God. The job of an evangelist is to teach people how to connect to God and bring them into the full knowledge of God. The job of teachers is to mature believers in the word and in knowledge of scripture, right? The job of apostles is to take the blueprint of heaven and release it over the earth. And so there's specific things that will clearly show me whether you're an evangelist or an evangelist with a strong prophetic gift, or a prophet or an evangelist. All right. In the spirit of rejection, one of the main signs you're a prophet or have the prophetic gift. Not necessarily, because you could struggle with rejection and just be someone with a strong mercy gift. People with mercy gifts are people who love the poor, love the broken, love the disfranchised. They'll go out and they'll minister to them. But sometimes they struggle with rejection because they give of themselves. They give everything they have, all their emotions, and then people use them and then they feel rejected, right? So it doesn't always mean that you're prophetic, but sometimes prophetic people will have gone through rejection, and that can be a clue. So it would have to look at your gift sets and how you're living that out. Okay. Yeah. Someone said they're digging too deep. You were. It's just the Holy Spirit. How can you discern what your emotions and what you're feeling around? I think I shared that if you weren't feeling like that a couple days ago, or even a couple hours ago, then most likely it's not your thoughts. All right. Any book recommendations? Go to my website, askdoctorfaith.com, and I have a tab called Book Recommendations, and you can find books there. If you join the mentoring and training group on Facebook, which is free, I have given a lot of resources under files, resources on dreams, resources on the prophetic that you can just read for free. No, I'm not charging you for nothing. All right. Let's see. When you're shutting down payment options. Okay. I already read that. This contradict each other because people who are administrative are typically organized. Okay. I'm not sure what I said. I don't know if that was a question. Let's see. I feel like my personal life, I can be disorganized, but when it comes to my career, yeah. So that it probably has to do with your temperament. So if people have, I don't want to go into temperaments today, but most of us have two different types of temperament. So one temperament of mine is very social, fun-loving, messy, disorganized, right? The other is extremely organized, and it manifests at work and at school when I'm building. But if I'm just relaxing, you might just be like, whatever. So it just depends on your temperament. All right. Let's see. Will you one day teach us on body sensation? Basically, that's the gift of discernment. I just finished doing a 2-hour course on that. You can still buy it on AskDoctorFaith.com. Those little courses are no longer going to be there because they're all going to be part of our online university, which you're going to be able to access as the months go. But body sensation is basically just discerning using your body. God communicates through our eyes. He communicates through our ears. We hear, we can see him, we can smell the presence of God like sweet wine. We can taste, sulfur in our mouth when there's demonic presence. We can sense or feel when the presence of God is there, or if there's a demonic entity. That's discernment. And so you just need to study on that. I have a friend who hits my triggers and causes my childhood wounds to come up. Can this friend be the Holy Spirit or demonic? Well, if those things are still there, then your job, it doesn't matter whether it's the Holy Spirit or demonic. The fact that they're still there, it means it's unhealthy. And so you need to deal with those. But it depends on what the friend does. If the friend is being mean to you, just ridiculing you or mistreating you, then that's not a good friend. If they know how to push your buttons, that's not healthy. That's toxic. All right. Do prophets start out strong in the prophetic gift, or do they grow in it? So one of the ways that I know someone is actually a prophet versus they just have a prophetic gift is these 3 ways. Potency, meaning how strong and weighty their words are. So you can have some people who prophesy and they're like, God loves you, right? And that is really sweet, and it's the word of the Lord. But the difference would be someone who's actually a prophet would be like, in the last 5 days, you have been feeling that God doesn't love you. But what he's telling you in this moment is that he loves you. So there's more detail. It's more robust, right? But everybody starts out at the prophetic gift. Every prophet starts at the prophetic gift. And so what we look for is potency, like the weight of their word, even the impact. And you may not be able to discern that if you haven't been training prophets, of when their word is delivered. The other thing we look for is frequency. Someone with a prophetic gift can usually prophesy when somebody asks them to pray for them, right? And it's pretty accurate. But someone who's a prophet can prophesy all the time, like all the time. Like they can prophesy, it just comes out of them. It's just naturally comes out of them. And so we look at frequency, how often. We look at weight, how the authority or the depth of it. We also look at maturity, because maturity is one of the big differentiating factor between someone who has a prophetic gift and someone who's a prophet. You're not really going to emerge as a prophet until there is a level of maturity. Now, people ordain and classify people as prophets all the time, and they're not mature, so people do that. But when I'm talking about what we have seen, there's a level of maturity, not even just in how you prophesy, but in the word, in how they can use the word to prophesy, in how they cultivate the atmosphere. So when they pray, what happens in the spirit realm. And this is stuff that you grow into. And that's why you start with your prophetic gift. You can increase your proficiency in how well you prophesy. You can increase your weight based on your devotion, based on the time that you spend in the Lord, based on your training, right? But some people will always just have the prophetic gift, and prophets are born. They're born that way, but you got to grow up. So for example, like my son may be born to be the president of the United States, right? But if we don't provide him with the right training, the right environment, the right structure, he may never fulfill that. That's what happens to some prophets or some teachers, some apostles, some evangelists. It's in you from the time you're born. Like this is God, Jeremiah, from the time he was in his mother's womb, he was set apart for that, right? But if it's not cultivated, if it's not properly trained, it doesn't fully mature. Okay, I'll take like 3 more questions. Someone said I sent a request to book you. Awesome. We look forward to reading that and hopefully coming to be with you guys soon. Let's see. What are people who dream a lot and some dreams come true? Nothing. There are people who dream, right? They're dreamers. But most likely, and the reason I said nothing is because there is this whole thing that people think because they automatically dream, they're automatically a prophet. But that's not true. It just means if the dream is coming true, then most likely you have a prophetic gift. All right. Because one of the ways that the Lord talks, that was me being blunt again, right? One of the ways that the Lord speaks to us is through dreams, right? So if you do have dreams and the dreams do come true, then there might be a prophetic gift there. Okay. That is the first clue that you may have a gift. And then usually, if you're a prophet, you're not just going to dream. You're probably going to sense. You're probably going to hear. That's the other way that we discern between someone with a gift of prophecy and someone who's an actual prophet, is the modes of communication from the Lord. You will see that people that are prophets, they generally don't just see or generally don't just hear. They generally walk out. I'm trying to see if I have a white line on my mouth. Sorry, y'all. All right. I'm using the cameras to clean it because I hate that when people are preaching and they got the spit and stuff. All right. Anyway, but generally what we see is that there is there's multiple levels, so they can hear, see, sense. They'll have one that is strong, but someone who has a gift generally may dream a lot, or may just hear a lot. I mean, who has a gift may just see a lot, right? And even if you see with a gift, that doesn't make you a seer. And I don't want to go into that today because y'all ask me every single time. But it just means someone who God communicates. Not all prophets are seers, no. Just some prophets see. And some people with the prophetic gift see, but that doesn't make them a seer. That's another teaching. I actually did it already. You can go to my YouTube. There's a teaching on the seeing realm, and I teach about seers. All right. When God tells you that you're a prophet, do you have to go to a prophetic school? When God tells you you're a prophet, the next thing that you need is for other people to tell you that you're a prophet. A couple of days ago, I did a list of how you know if you're called into ministry. One of it is you have a call from God, so you heard it, but the other has to be other people have also heard it. The other has to be that you have identified a people group and your assignment, and you're beginning to walk in it. So you hearing from the Lord is just one step. Every fivefold gift needs confirmation from other people. And so if you feel like you're a prophet, it would be wise to be trained. It's like saying, I'm a singer, but never do voice lessons, right? Or I'm supposed to be a dancer and never learn the techniques. There is techniques, there is mechanisms in how to operate, not only as a prophet, but as an evangelist, as a teacher, as an apostle, hence why we started the schools. All right. Is it common to be intimidated by your gift? Yeah, that's actually holy reverence. It's actually wise when you're realizing the weight that God has put on your life for you to be a little bit nervous. People who are like, yeah, I'm an apostle and run into it, kind of have me scratching my head, because when you really realize the weight of what God is putting on your life, there has to be a holy reverence. There has to be like, wow, God, me, you want to use me for this. And that is what helps us stay humble. And every time God does something extraordinary in your life through you, whether it's teaching or pastoring or helping bring someone through healing or counseling, then you should be awed. I always tell the Lord, may I never lose the wonder of how you use me. I always want to be blown away at what you do for me. I don't ever want to get to the point where I feel like I've arrived, or it's the moment I start thinking that it's me, right? Then it's a very, very dangerous realm to go into. All right. Before I knew I was an evangelist, I was sensing spirit. Yep. All right. Any questions on Facebook? Let's see. A prophet ordained me to be a prophet, but I don't walk fully in the calling. Yeah. So what happens is that people the maturely ordained people. So they can see it on your life, but then they don't train you. And I hate this. I see it all the time. I see people that get ordained, but they were not trained. I'm like, okay, that person ordained you, but do you understand what it means to be a pastor? Like, did you get any teaching on the word, on the New Testament, Old Testament? Do you understand I hate it. And so I see all these types of ordinations. That's why we're not quick to ordain at our church. What we normally do is we see people out maybe for a year or two in an area of leadership. We see how they treat people. We see how faithful they are. We see how they handle their position. And then we do a 3-month training in the particular graces before we even think of ordaining them. But it's unethical and it's malpractice to ordain people to keep them at your church, which people do it all the time. People all of a sudden, when they feel like you're going to leave their church, are like, oh, I feel like it's time that we ordain you, because they want to keep you. It's a ploy of manipulation. But if someone says they want to ordain you, then they see something on your life, ask them about the training that they're going to put you through so that you can at least be prepared for what you're going to be doing. Do you have advice on how to find a good fivefold church near you? I did a Google search. What city are you in? I may not be able to think of one right away, but I may be able to. And we said we were going to do a list, but it's just so much work. Because people ask us about churches all the time. Yeah, Austin, I can't think right off of my head, but in Dallas, I know that there are a couple. But you can email us. I may not answer right away, but we will do some of the research and find out. Okay. All right. 1 or 2 more questions. Whenever I pray for any topic, for anybody, I also rival devils and his power. And also I prophesy, but when I don't pray, I don't have any revelation like that. Okay. I'm not sure what you mean, you rival or If you could explain that a little bit more. Allow God to confirm you through others. Tampa, if William McDowell, I don't know if he's in Tampa or Orlando, but if check and see if he's close to there. They have an amazing church, and God is doing some amazing things there. Alrighty. So, go to AskDrFaith.com or to Destiny Academy /AskDrFaith.com. You can register for the Fivefold School there, or just the School of the Prophets, or just our Spiritual Development School. July 1st, we will be opening up our online training academy in Atlanta. I always refer people to my brother's church, Brian Meadows. He's at Embassy, but there is Life Center. There's All Nations. There's a lot of good churches there. So, you know. Alrighty, let's see. So the Destiny Training Academy will be opening up July 1st, and we'll be doing that. And we'll be emailing you guys a mini course, 4 hours, well, not 4 hours, an hour course that you're going to be getting for free if you're a part of our list. So you can join that list at AskDrFaith.com. Someone said, I hope to hear back from you very soon. If we tell anybody who requests us to give us 24 to 48 hours, because you got to fill out a booking request form. Once you have filled out that form, then we ask for 24 to 48 hours. We'll send you the form. All right. Bless you guys. Talk to you soon. Have a great day. Okay, well, I'll answer this last one. What if you were confirmed as a prophet, but there's no one in church to identify you? Then get in other areas. I mean, your church is not the only place that God can confirm you. Attend conferences, attend trainings, get around other people that can also hear. But really, your church needs to be the place that confirms you, because they're the ones that are going to give you room to actually manifest and operate in that area. So if your church doesn't recognize you, then it's going to be really difficult for you to actually operate as a prophet or a prophetic person. Not every prophet is called to the church. Some prophets are called to the nations or down the street, but every prophet should have a pastor. Just the same way that every evangelist should have a pastor, every teacher should have a pastor, every apostle should have a pastor. And no, they don't have to be the same thing. So an apostle doesn't have to have an apostle as a pastor. They can have a pastor as a pastor. A teacher doesn't have to have a teaching pastor as their pastor. They could have, an apostle. So it doesn't matter. It's just about what you need in that season. Can you repeat the last website? Just go to AskDrFaith.com. Doctor is spelled out DOCTOR, faith.com. And you'll see all our events under the events tab. And you'll see our upcoming courses, my travel schedule, and everything under there. All right. Wow, just got on and you're leaving. Yeah, you can watch the replay. I've been on for a good while. Will you increase enrollment for the School of the Prophets? Generally we do. So once we close out early registration, which is going to close out July 15th with the payment plan, we hike it up for about $10. And the reason is we need you guys to respond early. We have numbers that we have to give the hotel for food and for rooms. And so we need people, and this is important for anything that you're going to register for. The earlier that you get in there, the better it is for those planning it, so that they can have the numbers that they need to give the hotels and the venues that are preparing, to have you, materials, all of that. All right. Thank you, Bree. Put up my website, AskDrFaith.com. For those of you guys who are interested in training your kids, I'll do a video on that at some point. And then you could also join us at our church, LegacyCenterChurch.com. We have a supernatural teens and kids conference where we teach kids on hearing the voice of God, how to pray and all of that. And that's July 27th and 28th. So bless you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.